So let's proceed to the next agenda. But before that, let me say hello to respected Professor Dr. Asad Jan. He already joins us today. Assalamualaikum, Professor Jan.
Walaikum assalam,
Chinese.
everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, Professor Asajan, you are going to be our first keynote speaker today, and you are going to present your materials. The
Okay.
committee has already made you a co-host, so you can share screen and also navigate through your materials by yourself. But
Okay.
before that, thank you very much. Before that, let me introduce you to the participants.
Okay.
So, respected Professor Dr. Asad Jan is currently the editor-in-chief in Sarhat Journal Agriculture. This is a reputable Q3 journal indexed by the Scopus. Respected Professor Dr. Asad Jan obtained his PhD from the University of Tsukuba, Japan at 2006. He completed a postdoc fellow at the Japan International Center for Agricultural Sciences, Japan at 2006 up to 2008. Now he is full professor in the Institute of Biotechnology and Genetic Engineering in the University of Agriculture, Peshawar. The IBGE is one of the prominent and prestigious institutions of biotechnology in Pakistan. So we are really glad to have you today with us, Professor Jan. So I hope that you can share your beneficial knowledge to all of us, the participants today. So please start your presentation. All the time is yours.
Thank you very much, Madam, for the kind introduction. Uh, can you people see the slide that I have shared with you, how to get a paper published in a high impact factor journal?
Sure, all clear.
Very clear.
Okay, so Dr. Ria, I will proceed. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Today, I will discuss how to get a paper published in a high impact factor journal. And as Dr. Ria introduced me, currently I'm working as a professor in the University of Agriculture, Peshawar, and I'm also serving as the editor-in-chief of Sarhat Journal of Agriculture. So I would like to take this opportunity first to introduce a bit about the journal that currently we are publishing, Sarhat Journal of Agriculture. It is Scopus Endus paper, and Sarhat Journal of Agriculture, the aim of this journal is to provide a platform for scientists, students, and researchers all over the world to promote and share various new issues and developments in different areas of agricultural sciences. So this journal is an open access international journal, and interestingly, most of the publications coming from abroad, international publication, they are free of charge. So it's a very good opportunity for all the Indonesian people, Indonesian friends, to submit many papers and get published those papers without any charges. So the Sarhat Journal of Agriculture also publishes the most recent and informative research in all areas of agriculture. This journal is fully committed to provide free access to all articles as soon as they are published. And the researchers working in different areas of agriculture are invited to participate by publishing their papers in this journal. And of course, the medium of publication is English. This is the recent issues, and basically we are publishing, it's a quarterly journal. We publish 4 issues per year, as in March, in 2020, we published 4 issues. The first issue is in March 2020, June 2020, September 2020, December 2020. This year, 2021, we have already issued 2 issues, March 2020, and there is a special issue 2021. You will be interesting to know this special issue, August 2021, Agriculture Productivity and Sustainability Improvement in Tropical Region. This is a particular issue dedicated for the research conference carried out in Indonesia, and recently many papers have got online in this special issue, and all the papers are coming from Indonesia. So all of you are invited to submit to Sarhad Journal of Agriculture, and you can also become part of the Sarhad Journal of Agriculture to review manuscripts for Sarhad Journal of Agriculture. So this was a bit of introduction for the Sarhad Journal of Agriculture, but I will proceed now to the topic, the main topic, that how to get published the manuscripts in high index paper. I will come to the point. When you have data, when you have research, either you publish it, or if you don't publish it, your data get perish. So of course, everybody wants that whatever he has the findings he has found should be published rather than to be perished. So I encourage all of the scientists, the researchers, the academicians to get published their research in rather than wasting or putting it into perishable basket. So what is actually an impact factor? The introduction is brief. This impact factor was first invented by a scientist. He was a mathematician, he was a computer scientist, Eugene Garfield, and he introduced this for the Science Citation Index in 1965. So this was the first systematic effort to track citations in the scientific literature. And then this metric issued by Thomson Reuters, which is owned by the SCI. So what is actually basically an impact factor? Impact factor is the average number of citations received per paper published in that journal during the 2 preceding years. For example, in 2008, impact factor of a journal will be equal to the number of times all items published in that journal in 2006 and 2007 were cited by index publication in 2008. So, new journals indexed from issue number 1 will receive an impact factor up to 2 years of indexing. So, this is what is actually an impact factor. The impact factor, though it is considered to be a very good criteria, and rather now even I will shed a bit light on it, that many of people are in favor of the impact factor, but still there are also some controversies available. So for example, this person, he is the pioneer, the founder of the impact factor, Eugene Garfield. He presented a paper, The Agony and the Ecstasy, the History and Meaning of the Journal Impact Factor. This person narrates, in 1955, it didn't occur to me that impact would one day become so controversial, like nuclear energy or nuclear atomic bomb. The impact factor is a mixed blessing. It can be a good blessing, but it can also be a bad blessing. In the wrong hands, it might be abused. So Thomson Reuters also have something to say on their impact factor. Impact factors used to provide a gross approximation of the prestige of a journal, but there are many artifacts that can influence an impact factor. For example, if you want to enhance the impact factor of a journal, so review articles are cited more frequently. If you publish more review articles, you will get more citation. When you get more citation, you can have very good impact factor, and all of you will be aware of that most of the good journals which are publishing reviews or review journals, they are bearing high impact factor. So impact factor increases if more reviews are published during those 2 years. Similarly, there is another controversy, variation between disciplines. If you compare the journals from different disciplines will be having different impact factor. For example, journal from biological sciences, and if you compare journals from the physics or for the material sciences, both of these journals might be having different impact factor. So you have to struggle. Sometimes you can't match with the impact factor of the other field. So maybe I should say that comparison for impact factors between different fields will not be a justice. Similarly, item by item impact. Impact factor doesn't distinguish between different items. For example, if you are publishing letters, so letters can be cited many times rather than research articles. So again, as I mentioned, like for example, you can have more weightage for the review articles, you can have more weightage for the letters rather than the research. And of course, the last one, journals request authors cite their papers. This is because I'm myself the chief editor of the journal. Usually it happens that to enhance the journal ranking, this request is sent out to the reviewers, to the authors, that please cite some of the papers of our Sarha Journal of Agriculture. So there is some.
It's all right, Professor Jan. Go on. I'm sorry for the interruption. Professor Jan, can you please unmute your voice because it's muted?
Okay.
Yes, sorry for
Can
the
I continue?
Yeah, sure. I'm sorry. Yeah.
If there is any problem, Dr. Ria, you can stop me.
Right, okay, no problem at all.
Okay, so I was saying that sometime, because I'm myself the chief editor of the journal, and sometime this request is sent out to the authors that please cite our articles in different journals. So by doing so, one can enhance the impact factor of the journal. So that's why this is also sometimes not a very good strategy, good tactic. So you can see these are the different journals, like for example, the Lancet, the Science, the Cancer Researcher, Cancer Journal for Clinicians, Nature, JAMA, all these journals carry high impact factors. And you must be knowing, for example, the Lancet has a very high impact factor, CA has got a very high impact factor. Currently, these are the different journals. The journal, I compiled a list, and you can find that there are journal articles, and they are carrying, like, for example, Nature, Science, all these have different impact factors like 41, 33, and then there are also quite other journals, and there is quite starting from a very high impact factor to a very low impact factor range. So this is not the ultimate list, but I just, for a presentation, I just put a few journals on the list. So except impact factor, there are also other metrics. For example, there is a scholar matrix, and scholar matrix, for example, there are two common metrics. One is H index and the other is I-10 index. Most of you know H index is basically the number of H papers, each of which has been cited at least H times, the same number of times. For example, you have got 20 papers and those manuscripts have been cited 20 times. So that is actually the 20 index. Similarly, I-10X index is a sort of indication for the young researcher, young academician, and it is actually the number of publications with at least 10 citations. So for example, if a person has got 100 publication and which has got at least 10 citations, so that is the I-10 index will be 100. Not only scholar metrics, but there are also other article level metrics, like for example, the number of citation in scientific publications Google Scholar carry out. And along with that, there is also some other citation outside academia. So there is one famous one, there is altmetric. And altmetric means alternative metric for impact. So this is basically based on the concrete data for grants and fellowships. And this this matrix reflects that how your research has been benefited for practical application and how this research has been got attention in the media, etc., etc. Like is this is the database, and it's showing, like for example, this is the journal outside academics, who is saying what about your published work. So this reflects all the collated record of all the online shares and mentions of your research, like for example, by the Twitters, by the Facebooks, by the newspapers. It's so view all of the original documents and coverage. This altmetric shows, and this is represented like by these yellow colors, by a spherical and by inside the count. So, as I was saying, it is not totally free of controversies. In July 2015, there is an organization, the Metric Tide, and this Metric Tide actually reported the independent review of the role of metrics in research assessment and management. The metric tide was of the view, they criticized these matrices, and they said that too often poorly designed evaluation criteria are dominating minds, distorting and determining careers. At their worst, metrics can contribute to what Rowan Williams, the former Archbishop of Canterbury, calls a new barbarity in our universities. Journal level metrics such as the journal impact factor should not be used. So this is their view. We don't agree with that, but this is their view. So interestingly, as I was saying, that there are certain controversies involved with these impact factors with these matrices. So you can have, in the Nature had a survey, and they collected the top 100 papers. The Nature explored the most cited research of all times, and you will be amazed to know the most highly cited paper was this paper. Most highly cited paper of all time is this paper, protein measurement with the fallen phenol region. And this is a common paper, Lowry. And in the laboratory, we use this laboratory for protein measurement. And there is a common Bradford Lowry assay. You might have heard this name quite commonly. So the citation of this manuscript, protein measurement with the fallen phenol region, is more than 305,000 citation. And what is Lowry comments about? Although I really know it's not a great paper, this paper he's reflecting, I secretly get a kick out of the response. This is Lowry scientist. So he is of the view, this paper is not very good paper, but you can see the citation, all time, the best citation papers in the world. So the top 100 papers reveal that this paper, the topmost papers, they belong to the category of biology lab techniques. Rather than other important areas, if you publish a paper in the technique area, because people keep on repeating that technique, and that technique will be repeated again and again, that paper will get a high impact factor. So it discourages the true findings rather than it gives a weightage to the technique only. So to have top 100 papers to get included in this list, you need to have more than 12,119 citations. Only 2 Nobel Prize winners are included in that list. Method statistics computer softwares are included in that list. And it is only dominated by biochemistry. Professor Peter Morey from Yale University, he mentioned, if citations are what you want, devising a method that makes it possible for people to do the experiments they want at all or more easily will get you a lot further than, say, discovering the secrets of the universe. So sometimes getting high citation doesn't mean, it doesn't reflect that that the manuscript which has discovered the secrets of the universe get more kicks rather than a paper which has only developed a technique. So this is not justice. So somehow this was a little bit controversy associated with the impact factors and the matrices, but because most of the carriers and things, they are quite related with these impact factor, and these things are actually these are quite common, and promotion, etc., position, etc., projects, etc., they are grabbed by taking into consideration these impact factor. So this person's Kyle Wojan, senior editor from the Nature Genetics, he reflects in the Nature Jobs, and he says that if you have a single publication in a high impact factor journal, it can change your career trajectory. So the importance of impact factor still cannot be denied. And we are here with this situation that all of us need manuscripts with a high impact factor. So to publish a good paper in a high impact factor, this paper should need exceptional quality. And this should have 3 key components. Number 1, the content, the style, and the communication. The content provides completely new direction. It should have that it has got something that it provides new directions. Similarly, its style, its delivery is significant. And then the communication, you should have a plan for publicity. If you've got a good publicity plan, your manuscript will be more, will get more attention. So first of all, we contend the manuscript, what you are going to publish, it should have novelty. Your data should have novelty. If your data has novelty, you can publish it in good journal. So novelty is finding something which has not published before. You have to work for something which is not published before. And then you have to work for something, you have to develop something which leads to conceptual advancement. So significant step forward for a field, like you devise a new field, you generate, you invent a new field, or your inventions leads to certain new area of research. So a totally new direction or paradigm shift can get you a good manuscript with good impact factor. The second thing, the content of the manuscript should be, you should formulate an important research questions, and these should be clinically important or defined new mechanism. The content of the manuscript should be clinically important, or it should be defining new mechanism. They just don't describe or confirm. It should imply a sound study design, and it should be as perfect as possible. Similarly, data should be at the heart of everything you do. For publishing good manuscript, you should have very good data, and your study is only as good as the data that you have. So you people should not worry. If you are not having good data, if you do not have access to decent data, collaborate with groups that do, or you can also use freely available data sets. Now there are quite a lot of data sets available. Data mining can be done. Good knowledge can be derived out of that, and that knowledge can be published in with good journals. So we don't need to get this hurt, because we can have either collaborations or we can use freely available data sets. Two guiding principles regarding the content: what you are going to publish, whether that data, is it true? And the second data, what you have found, what is that going to lead? So what is the importance? What you did actually, does it have some importance? You have to show the importance of your work. This is one of the slides which reflects that style, how your research should have, because this figure shows title, abstract, and paper. A common reader, a common person, first of all, he goes through the title. So the title is the most read part of an abstract, of an article. The second part, if someone is interested in the title, then he reads the abstract. And if abstract it is interesting, then that person reads the paper. So the most important part of an article is the title. Your manuscript should have a strong title. It is the most important determinant of how many people will read it. So please, whenever you are going to publish, you should have a very strong title. Regarding the title, you should condense the paper into a sentence summarizing the finding. It should be brief, it should be condensed, it should be strong. The title should capture the reader's attention, and it should have one key message. These titles should have some do's and don'ts. The title should use action verbs to make it lively. The title should be short. It should not be more than 10 to 20 words. The title should not have these things. The title should not use generic words: on the, study of, investigation of. Please refrain from using these words in the title. In the title, please do not use unnecessary details. In the title, please don't use unknown abbreviations and jargons. In the title, please don't use a question mark. In the title, please don't use puns, metaphors, or play on words. In the review papers, this can be done, but in the research articles, this is not recommended. Now, the next point is abstract. Regarding the abstract, the journal editors may only read title and then the abstract to decide or to reject the review. So when editors choose a synopsis for selected articles, they scan through titles and abstract. Keep it in mind, this is very important. Editors, when they write certain synopses, they only go through the art or abstracts. If your abstracts is elaborative, it's a dynamic abstract, it's a good abstract, and your abstract is somehow quoted, it becomes a part of the synopsis, your work will attract increased exposure if it is somehow features by editor synopsis. So this shows the importance of the abstract. The abstract should work like a marketing tool. The abstract summarizes key points to help reader decide a paper is worth reading. So the ideal abstract should introduce topic, state problem, summarize findings, demonstrate broader implication or impact. The impact of the manuscript, who will it impact on broader relevance. You have to find the broader relevance in the abstract. After abstract, regarding writing the paper, when you want to write the paper, better meet, discuss, formulate strategy. You meet your friends, your research collaborators, you discuss the strategy and you formulate a strategy. You should decide whether a manuscript should be a science paper or medical paper, because the science manuscript has its own requirement and the medical paper, it has its own requirement. The good thing is that you should write 2-3 extended abstracts, and that when you go through those 2-3 extended abstracts, it will help you to decide where your manuscript fit in, whether it's fit for the science or the medical paper. Similarly, the second point, while writing the manuscript, you should choose an appropriate journal. Draft paper for that journal with those readers in mind. And that is why whenever you want to write a paper for a journal, there are always guidelines, and every manuscript, every journal highlights its scope. So, for example, if you are publishing a paper for medical paper, you have to devise your manuscripts according to the doctors, because doctors need medical information and useful statistics. So the important point is that while you are writing the manuscript, your manuscript should tell your research as a compelling story. You make it a compelling story that everybody is compelled to study it or read it. So ask a big question and answer it as fully as possible. And of course, simply. Good research builds up a whole picture of a system. The last point, but not the least, keep it simple. You are writing the manuscript should be simple, because and it should have no more than 3 key messages. In the words of Einstein, anybody can make it a mess. Anybody can make it a difficult, but only genius make it simple. So the simple the manuscript, the simple you make the writing, and the findings, if you present it in a simple manner, the more attraction it will get, the more reads it will get. In case of scientific writing, the sentence is, it is must be well written. This is a wrong sentence. You can see the English should be correct. The English should not be this way. It is must be well written. Sorry. Even writing good English is challenging for native English speakers. So English, while writing the manuscript, scientific writing, the English should be perfect as possible. It should be simple as possible. Because we are not sometimes native speakers, as I mentioned, that English speakers also have sometimes this writing is challenge for them. So if someone is struggling, then there are also invite a native English speakers to be a co-author. He can help you with the English. And if you are not having an English speaker, then there are companies, there are professional companies available which help in scientific writing. You pay for them and they edit your manuscripts. So the last point, pay attention to structure and language of the paper you read and enjoy. Your scientific write should be enjoyable to read and it should be accessible. This last point, presenting your data. There is a person, David McConless. He wrote that information is beautiful. So McConless says, I'm interested in how design information can help us understand the world, cut through the unnecessary things and reveal the hidden connections, patterns, and stories underneath.
Saya Chef di LPPI Pak Udin.
Pardon? Is there
Um,
anything?
Well, I'm sorry for the interruption. For all participants, can you please mute your screen? Your camera, please turn on the camera, right? Thank you very much. I'm sorry, Professor John, please go on.
Okay. So I wanted to say that for publishing good paper, you should be presenting your data in a beautiful manner. If you present your data in beautiful manner, it will be published easily. For example, this is just for a reference. This is a data regarding, like, for example, when is the peak breakup times according to the Facebook status updates. And they have just presented the data in a form and which is easy to understand. For example, couples breaking up in the time when they are making more pledges or there is demand. So this is spring break or spring clean or Valentine Day. So don't bother about this picture. I wanted to emphasize that the data you want to present, try to present it in beautiful manner, in a graphical manner, or in more interesting tools you should be employing. The more recent, the more sophisticated tools you are applying, the tools which are easy to interpret your data, it will enhance the impact of your manuscript. So once you have the data, then explaining your data is the important fact. How do you explain your data? So you should translate your findings into accessible and meaningful information. You should be telling the scientist or the audience or the readers that what do your beta values actually mean? The beta values, the alpha values, the gamma values, the A values, the B values, the statistics that you put, what is the meaning? You have to put it into simple words. So there should be concrete examples while explaining your data. And then you don't need to apply every statistics. You should ensure that your statistics are relevant for the audience. You shouldn't put irrelevant statistics because that will reduce the credibility. So try to apply those statistics which are relevant to your field, your research, rather than just creating data for the sake of data. And this is interesting, something outside the manuscript while publishing the paper. So while you submit a manuscript to a journal, you write a cover letter. So the audience is advised that please do not overlook the importance of this. Cover letter is an opportunity to sell your paper to the journal, and only one shot, so make every effort to get it right. You should write the best cover letter while submitting. Don't take it for granted. Sometimes it happens that people addresses, they cut, copy, paste the same cover letter, and even when they submit the article from one journal to the other journal, um, they don't bother to change the name of the journal or the name of the editor. So please do not address your cover letter to the wrong editor or wrong journal. It happens. Sometimes it has happened with me. Many people They have submitted first to the one journal, and then they took in a hurry the journal and writing the same cover letter, but they wrote it for the previous journal, they sent it to me. So please don't address it to the wrong editor or journal. It happens. The cover letter, while writing a cover letter, it should be addressed towards the editor-in-chief by name. For example, if you are submitting a manuscript to Sarhad Journal of Agriculture, please mention my name, editor-in-chief, Dr. Asad Khan. So you know journal's editorial committee and bother to check, you should check it. And while writing the cover letter, you should also keep it one page. You don't need to make it much lengthier, 2-3 pages cover letter. Cover letter should be only one page. So it should be, and similarly in the cover letter, you should give the logic, why they should review it. You should be giving a logic that, for example, if you are submitting a journal, manuscript to the Sarhad Journal of Agriculture, so you would be mentioning that because this manuscript has got linked towards the agricultures and previously similar research has been published. This is part of the agriculture. That is why this journal should be published. This manuscript should be published in the Sarhad Journal of Agriculture. So brief why you should, why this is cover letter is your advocate letter. It should say why the study fits into the remit and scope of the journal. The cover letter should highlight why the journal readership would find this important. The cover letter should highlight the novel aspect of your work. So look through the journal for previous similar relevant studies. And you can give it an example that previously such and such papers were published in your journal. I'm talking about the high impact factor journal, like for example, if you are publishing to Nature or Science or something like that, you should highlight that, for example, such and such work was previously published. That's why we find that our work will be of importance to publish in that journal. You should have a publicity plan. Good papers will get just as many citations in lower impact fact journals as high profile ones. And why? Because the journal reputation is just a vehicle to assist an exposure. So you should have a very good publicity plan. There are plenty of high impact factor papers that get published in low impact factor journals and vice versa. So if you have a good publicity plans, it happens. So publication is only the first part. Publicity is as important. What should you do for the publicity of your manuscript? There should be a publicity plan. Devise a publicity plan. Find out publication date online. Contract university press office. Draft a solid press release. Work with journal press team. Call contacts of your own. And you should be available to speak 24. For example, if some people call you, media people call you regarding your, for example, you have published a paper and the newspaper people ask you, can you tell us the importance, or you yourself go to the newspaper, you publish the findings that we publish such and such papers, and the importance of this paper manuscript is this, and it will revolutionize this field. So you should have a publicity plan, and you should be finding every avenue to catch this opportunity. For publishing good publications, you can get guidance from Macmillan Science Communication. You can also have some master classes, webinars. You can, like the one we are having today. And similarly, you can have Nature Jobs blogs. You can also, there are articles written on these things for writing good manuscripts. There are articles, you can go through articles. And of course, mentors and colleagues can also help you with publishing good articles. So this is the way I think that how good impact factor journals should be approached, and good manuscripts should be published in high impact factor journal. This methodology, this presentation doesn't reflect the ultimate, the solid strategy, but this is my way of publishing good manuscripts. So not necessarily everybody should agree with me, and I beg a pardon if nobody agrees with me, so no problem, because everybody has his own methodology. As I mentioned, that my methodology, this is my way I approach good I have been publishing good manuscripts in high impact factor journal following this methodology. So I will say thank you very much for attending this seminar, and I'm available for questions and answer. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Jan, for your very compelling presentation. That was very encouraging, and thank you so much for the tips and trick how to ace in a high quality journal with a high impact factor and etc. Let me summarize that we have to pay attention to the content, style, and also the communication. And don't forget your novelty. And please keep it in mind that the journal is only the vehicle, because sometimes a good journal will publish a good manuscript will publish in a journal with a low impact and vice versa. Thank you very much. So for Professor Asad Jan, I think we will have more time for the question and answer session because you already spared 15 minutes. I already talked to the committee that we will proceed to the break. So now it's 11 o'clock. We will have a 15 minutes break, and then we will start again at 11:15 for the question and answer session. For all the participants, you can ask the question in Indonesian, and the committee will help you to translate. So that's okay to ask your question in Bahasa Indonesia. And you can also type your question via chat in English or Indonesia, and I will have to translate it and ask to our keynote speakers. And if you want to speak directly, you can just raise hands. Right, welcome back everyone to the workshop and coaching clinic, scientific writing, second I can beat on Thursday, 29th of July, 2021. Thank you so much for staying with us. We already passed our break time. But before we start our question and answer session, let me remind you again of the rules of our agenda today. First, all of the participants are required to join the two sessions, the morning session by Professor Asad Jan and the second session by Professor Atum, because your participation will be obtained through a certificate which is required to be submitted together with your manuscript to the Jordan Journal and also to the Sarhat Journal Agriculture. And then to all of the participants outside the I Can Beat, you will be charged 50,000 rupiahs to obtain your certificate. Kindly unmute your speaker if you want to say or ask your question to Professor Asadjan, or you can also chat in English or in Indonesian. The committee will help you to translate. Right, so Professor Asadjan, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Right, okay. Can you please turn on the camera so we can have a more interactive and lively discussion with all of the participants today?
Yeah, my camera is on, and I'll probably the screen sharing should be turned off, so that will be okay, I think.
All right, okay. So actually we are going first with the chat room. I think we already have 3 questions here in the chat room, 2 from Mr. Roy Suryabudi and 1 for Sajila. I saw that you already answered questions from Mr. Roy, but let me summarize to all of the participants to get the questions, and also maybe you can enforce your answer so everyone can get the same knowledge. Is that okay with you, Professor
Yeah, no
Jan?
problem.
Right, okay. So the 2 questions is about tenses and also about reviewers. So Mr. Roy Sutyabudi asked about the problem with the replacement of reviewers. So during the first round, his manuscripts are handled by expert A and expert B. They have jointly revised according to expert A and expert B suggestion. But at the second round, the manuscript was submitted to the different expert. Let's say expert C and expert D. And they have different opinion between expert C and D compared to the expert A and B. So Mr. Roy has a problem because the reviewer policy can get the other confused because of the differences of opinion between the first round and the second round. So how do we resolve that problem? And the second question is about tenses, especially for Indonesian and us, which English is not our native language. So the rules for tenses is varying in each journal. So could you please care to explain in detail about the tenses in the Sarhat Journal, Pakistan, which one used the present perfect in IMRAT, and which one uses the past tense and which one uses the passive or active voice. So please, Professor Jan, answer these 2 questions from Mr. Roy.
Okay, so regarding the first question, Dr. Roy asked, that question is very valid because I recently took over the charge of editor-in-chief of the Survey General of Agriculture. So the requirement is basically we actually evaluate uh, the manuscript submitted to Survey General of Agriculture by 2 reviewers. Our requirement is that one reviewer is local and the other one is a foreign reviewer. So actually the requirement is 2 reviewers. And sometimes it happens because all this work is voluntary. So we assign 2 reviewers mostly. And if, for example, if we receive review from one reviewer, that is sufficient. And then the second one is a local reviewer, foreign reviewer. So generally, we get manuscripts reviewed from 2 reviewers, one local and one foreign reviewers. Now, in case of Indonesia, we had an experience with Roy San, and already 19 manuscripts have been in process. Some of the manuscripts have already got online, and some of the manuscripts I also reviewed by myself because I'm myself biotechnologist. So I asked the Sarhad Journal Agriculture, and I took the privilege that I should review some of the manuscripts. And literally speaking, I reviewed some of the manuscripts. I found the knowledge is unquestionable. There is quite good data available in those manuscripts. But of course, the writing problem was there. And particularly for the English, the problem was there. So to answer the first question, that getting reviewed by 2 authors and then getting again reviewed by 2 authors, and if the reviewers are, the comments are contrasting, so that is quite difficult for the authors to comply with. So to cope with this issue, I hope I will discuss it at SJA management, and we will minimize this process for Indonesian authors. What we will do, Roy San will provide us a list of potential reviewers from Indonesia, and we will get review the manuscripts from Indonesia in Indonesia. Yeah, I mean to say that the manuscripts submitted from Indonesia will be reviewed by Indonesian reviewer, and the other reviewer be only from the Sarhad Journal of Agriculture from the University of Agriculture, Peshawar. So from now on, we will devise a strategy that the manuscripts submitted to SJA, Sarhad Journal of Agriculture, they will be reviewed only by the panels, by the reviewers list from 2 countries, one from Indonesia and one from our own university, Sarhad Journal of Agriculture, the Agriculture University of Peshawar. So I think this will minimize the time, and this will broaden our understanding. So I encourage all the Indonesian friends, colleagues, to submit papers to Sarhad Journal of Agriculture. I will highly encourage and I will highly facilitate this process from now onward. So thank you very much, Dr. Roy, for highlighting this issue, that you people have faced this issue, but I will make it more simple in future. I repeat again that Dr. Roy will provide me the potential list of reviewers from Indonesia. We will get review Indonesian manuscripts from the Indonesian reviewers. Indonesian people will understand, will have better understanding for the manuscripts written by Indonesian authors. And finally, we will review it here at the University of Agriculture, Peshawar, Pakistan. So I hope this will minimize this burden, this will cut the time short, and this will also enhance the quality. Regarding the second question, which Dr. Roy has asked, and he has also mentioned some famous scientists from Japan and his expertise. So I think this is not that much a big issue. Mostly the manuscript should be written in some part of it is in the present palm and some part is in the past palm. So of course the manuscript should, the 2 tenses should be used for the manuscript, present and past tense. I hope I answered the question asked by Dr. Roy.
Thank you, Prof.
Right, okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Roy, and also Professor Asad for a very brief explanation. But before we proceed to the second question by Ms. Shadila and the third question by Professor Rahayu Relawati, excuse me, Professor Jan, could you please check the camera, because here we still cannot see that you turn on the camera. Is there a problem or something? Because yeah, it is still a blank space, the like a black background.
The background is white.
No, it's all only blank screen. So is there any problem?
Maybe, probably. I don't know. From here, I can see my picture myself. The camera is
Oh,
on, and I have also shared the camera with you people. So
all right. Okay. Oh, well, that's strange. That's okay then, Professor Jan. Can we just go on to the next questions then?
yes,
Yes, yes, okay, because we hear your voice very clear and with a very excellent answer. So the second question from Ms. Shadila. So respected Professor Asadjan, it is an honor to all of us to be able to join this meeting and listen to your great presentation, really. So Shadila from the Food Technologies at the University of Muhammadiyah Malang asked about if the research that we do, should it be the development of past research from others, like it builds in or expand the other research, or must it really be the result of our own thoughts and have not been published at all? So can you please directly answer it?
yes. The question Shadila has asked is a very interesting question, and I think generally, research is basically researching. So of course, research is continued. It is based on the previous findings, and this is like the methodology of the science that, because all the science can't be done by one person or by one community. So some part is done by one person, the other part is done by the other person, and for this reasons, there are many journals which publishes these findings, and the basic purpose of publishing these research is that this research should be available to everybody, and everybody should take benefit from this research. So the taking into consideration this basic strategy, that why we publish, or why we do research, and then why we publish that other people should know that we have done this research, and why we want other people to know that what we have done, because they can use our knowledge. So we can't do repeating the same thing again and again. So that is why we should, both ways are important. One way is that, of course, whenever you want to do a research, the research is you do a literature survey. You find that, for example, you have a problem, and you go and you find the knowledge about whether some people has done something about this thing or not. If somebody has done something about that knowledge, so of course it becomes easy for you. There is an exchange of idea, there is a derivation of knowledge, and you derive some knowledge. So there is a knowledge. Of course, you get the methodologies. You find that what methodology he found, what condition the person used or the scientist used. So this gives a very good idea. So if you do not have this idea, if you do not know, or for a problem you don't know that whether somebody has done something, usually it is quite difficult to work on that topic. As a supervisor, because I'm myself a professor, we usually encourage our students that we should be doing that topic on which some literature is available, some knowledge is available, some person has already done some work on that. If somebody has done some work on that, it becomes easy to continue that research. And usually it is not recommended that something which has not been explored previously should be, we should put hand on it. So the first strategy is important. Yes, we should be doing literature survey, we should be doing, and we should continue some research. But sometimes it happens, if you come across some problem, and the problem is that there is no previous knowledge available. Of course, that knowledge is also encourageable, but you should there, I mean, you can't do that research alone. You should be having some discussion, some mentors, some groups, so that you do not get lost while doing your research. So I hope I answered your question.
Right, okay, so thank you very much, Professor Jan. So that's the answer to Miss Shadila, how our research should build upon each other, because the name is research. We researching was already revealed by the previous literature. Right, I saw Dr. Rahayu Relawati raise hand. Would you like to elaborate the questions by yourself?
Yes, Ria. Somebody is
Uh-huh.
going to ask a question, or I
Mhm.
should see the question myself.
Oh, no, right. Dr. Rahayu is raising her hands. I think like she would like to ask you directly her question.
Okay,
Please,
go
Dr.
ahead.
Rahayu. Mhm.
Rahayo, please.
I'm sorry, we cannot hear your voice. Maybe yeah, tune up the volume or something. Okay.
Headset.
Ah, right.
Okay.
Okay.
You can
Yes.
hear me?
Yes, all clear.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Asadjan. I think this is a really interesting and beneficial presentation for us,
Thank you very
mainly
much.
for me. Okay, I have two questions for you. Actually, I already typed it, was it on the chat box?
Okay.
But because give me chance, so I'll ask it directly to you. Okay. So
Okay.
first, since you mentioned the novelty on your presentation, but you do not explain us in detail. So I have a question. Was it the requirement of novelty at Asarhat Journal in detail? What is it about? Was it the most important novelty there? Is it about methodology or the topic or something interesting from local knowledge, for example, from Indonesia, something like that? And then second question, if we use the primary data, since I'm from agribusiness department, yeah, so our research is about social and economic of agriculture, yeah. So if we use primary data from survey, is there any minimum requirement, minimum number of data, how many data I mean, yeah, and maybe any minimum area of survey, one residence, one province, or just a small village is okay. I think that's all my question. Thank you.
Okay, Rahayo Relawati, thank you very much for the question. Regarding your first
You're
question,
welcome.
that is the novelty requirement in Sarhad Journal of Agriculture. Because Sarhad Journal of Agriculture is a Scoopers index manuscript, and we are trying to also get an impact factor in near future. Uh, Regarding the novelty, the research should not be a direct repetitions of previous research. It should not have published previously. And of course, it is basically a research journal. So when you ask whether it should be topic or it should be methodology, I think it should be research. If the research is novel, if the research has some novel finding, of course it is novel and it is acceptable to be published in the Sarhad Journal of Agriculture. The second question is, if the findings, the research is not the direct repetition, for example, if this research is published somewhere else, we can't publish it. So if the research is not published, it's novel, it has got certain novelty. So it is, of course, it goes through the review process, and the reviewers judge that this research is novel, it should be published. Based on their reviewer comments, we publish the manuscripts. So the novelty criteria is not that much high, but of course, yes, it should not be the direct repetition of a previously public research work. So that is the answer to the first question. The second question is that if you use primary data from survey, is there any minimum number or minimum area of collecting data? Regarding this question, yes, of course, because Sarhad Journal of Agriculture publishes manuscripts from social sciences like economics or from extension, etc. And regarding the number should be statistically significant. If the numbers are statistically significant, it is okay, we can publish the manuscripts. If the statistics justify the analysis, because of course, while you are doing survey or you are doing social studies, you have to apply statistics. If the statistics agrees to your analysis, we do agree to that. I hope I answered your question.
Okay, thank you. It's clear. Yeah, it's about statistics. Okay, thank you.
So thank you very much, Professor Jan and also Dr. Rahayu. The next question from Mr. Sonny. So could you please elaborate your question?
Okay, thank you very much, the moderator. I am very happy to listening your material, Professor Jan, because it's very meaningful for me. I think for us, it is just statistically writing. My question is, maybe I have several questions for you, Professor. The first question is, maybe it's a problem for us. How to motivate ourselves to write a paper, especially in international paper, a journal. It is the first question. And the second question is how to decide our paper is qualified for maybe Q1, Q2, and even Q3. Because sometimes I get confused with my data. For the third questions, you mentioned about make a strong title, right? A strong title. Sometimes I get a mistake. I confuse with my title in the journal. So maybe you can explain to us how to make a strong title, maybe a unique title or something like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Aku. I will ask Sony. I couldn't completely grasp the question asked by Sony, but I would request Ria that if she summarizes the question for me, I will answer. Ria.
Right. Okay. So can you please repeat, because there are like 3 questions there and I was checking the chat.
Okay. I will repeat
yes. So
okay.
yeah, there are 3 questions. So
Sony may ask you in Indonesian language. Please translate it to me in English. No problem.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Professor Jan. So, Mr. Sony, please.
The first one, how to motivate ourselves.
Yeah, the motivation.
To write an international paper.
Okay, and then?
And the second question is how to decide our paper is qualified for maybe Q1, Q3, and maybe Q2.
Right.
And the third question is how to make a strong title for our journal.
Right. Okay. So, yes, Sonny has 3 questions, Professor Jan.
Okay.
So the first is how to motivate ourselves to like keep writing or drafting the manuscript, because sometimes it is hard to do that. And to push ourselves that publication is important. And the second one, how to decide we should classify our journal, whether it's classified for the Q1, Q2, or Q3. I mean, like we do not over assess or under assess our own manuscript. And the last is how to, I'm sorry, what was that?
Strong title.
How to specify or make a strong title, because we see that from your presentation, title is the biggest part that is seen by the editor and also the reviewer even before the abstract and the paper. So how to make a compelling title that makes our manuscript be accepted. So thank you, Mr. Sony.
Okay, so Ria, I got the last question very clearly, and that is how to make a very compelling title. So there is a saying, we say, practice makes a man perfect. The more you practice, the more better title you will get. So while doing your research, it is good that writing is a skill actually, and the more you write, the more competent, the more skillful you become. So for having a compelling title, the good advice is that you draft 4, 5, or up to 10 titles, and out of those 10 titles you can decide which title is more compelling. You can take help from your seniors, or you can discuss it also with your colleagues. So ultimately you will get a very compelling or very strong title. So the good practice is that you decide, you draft 4, 5, or 10 titles, and that will help you decide And that of course your experience, your own judgment will tell you that which title is the best out of your drafted titles. So this was the answer to the last question. Can you repeat the two other questions, please, Ria?
Oh, yes. So the first and second one, you kind
The
of
first
can,
one was,
right. So the first one, how to motivate ourselves to keep publishing because writing is hard. Starting from the draft is hard. And the second one, how to decide which journal will fit better to our manuscript. So we don't over assess or under assess our journal to send it to Q1, Q2, or Q3.
okay, I think of course, again, I would say that the good thing is if you are working in a field, you should be knowing the journals. And when we were students ourselves, when I was a PhD student or while I was a master student, so always first of all try to follow a manuscript for the very standard journal. Like for example, I'm myself a plant biotechnologist. So what I used to do, that we tried our level best to carry out good research. Once we carried out good research, we tried to write a good manuscript for very high impact factor journal. Like for example, Plant Cell is an impact factor journal with an impact factor of 10 or 9. So their writing style and their methodology used to be very good. So what we used to do, that we used to draft or write our manuscript first for Plant Cell. Then we used to edit. So the manuscript written for Plant Cell used to be very comprehensive. Once the manuscript was submitted to the journal processing was used to be very quick, and they used to answer within 1 month. Within 1 month, we could get the comments from reviewers for free, and those review used to be very helpful for us. So it was not necessary that we publish papers in Plant Cell, but of course that getting reviewed, that manuscripts in Plant Cell helped us to publish it at least in Plant Physiology or something like that. So I would advise to you that if you want to publish or to check your data, of course your data, your supervisors, your colleagues, your friends can tell you the status of your data. And even you, if you are regularly doing literature survey and you are reading manuscripts from different journal, it will help you that where does sit your data, where does your data fit in. So that is the answer to your question.
Right. Okay. And maybe one last question. Sonny asked about how to motivate ourselves. So yeah, because we see that you have lots of publication, how to keep pushing ourselves to write.
Right.
Okay, that's a very good question. How to keep motivating yourself or keep writing your manuscripts? Of course, this is something depending from country to country, from institutes to from institute. There is a time that when you achieve a milestone. So in our country also, and maybe in other countries, probably it is not said that you should go for writing manuscript, rather than your manuscript should be producing some impact, and impact should be in the form of obvious or visible output. So I think if you, this is actually my professor in Japan, she used to tell me that if you are trying to find the secrets of nature and you want to highlight it to the world, so this is one good motivation, that you are revealing the truth. If you are revealing the truth, this will always keep you motivated to write the manuscripts and do your research. Ria?
Yes. Okay. Right. So Mr. Sonny, does it answer your question?
Yeah, it's very clear answer. Thank you very much, Professor Jan.
All
Thank you
right.
very much, Sunny.
Oh, it's a very lively discussion. A lot of people asking today. The next question is from, let me find it in the chat. Oh, yeah, it's from Dr. Tririni Nurintias. So she has two questions. So Professor Jan, if the data of the publication is part of the thesis master and the data has not been published in any journal, should we put the thesis master in the reference list? This is very important to avoid self-plagiarism, right? So because in her university, this issue become the requirement? So that's the first question. Are you going to answer it, or can we go on to the second one?
Well, I think this is no problem. Usually we put the data, if, for example, that data is accessible. For example, most of the universities put the thesis usually on their libraries, and the repositories are available. So sometimes, for example, if the data, that work is not published from the thesis, but the thesis repository is available, somehow that can be accessed. So I think there is no harm in putting the reference of the thesis in your manuscript. I hope I answered your question. If not, I can repeat again.
Right. Okay. So thank you. That's very clear. So we can put the thesis in the reference list. Okay. Because here, however, the library has the depository of our thesis. And the second question from the same person, Dr. Tririni, if the data is part of our master student work, so should we put her thesis or his thesis in the reference, considering that we are working together with the students? So how about this issue, Professor Jan?
Ria, can you repeat this question again?
Right, okay. So if the data is a part of the master student work, should we put it in the thesis reference? Sometimes as a lecturer, we work together with the students. So if we use that data, should we put her thesis too in our reference?
Yeah, I think we can put that. There is no harm in that.
All right. Even though the master student become the first author, so we still need to do that?
Yeah, I'm a bit confused about it, Ria.
All right. Okay. So yeah. So Dr. Tririni asked, sometimes the lecturer work together with the master student to take a data from their thesis. So if that's published and the thesis is also published, so can we put the thesis into the reference to the journal together?
I think we can put.
So although the master student is the first author, we still do that, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So thank you very much, Professor Jan. So I hope that's answer your question, Dr. Tririni. Right. Oh, okay. I see again question from Miss Devi Dwi Sawardani. Can you please ask your question?
Okay, thank you very much, Miss Ria. It's a great pleasure for us to get information and knowledge from you, Professor Dr. Asad Jan. Exactly, I have several questions. Especially, my background is food technology. In SJA journal, would you like to ask about the probability and opportunity, especially to the post-harvest and food technology research to publish? And would you like to tell us about the specifically scope that now is have very good opportunity to appointed for to publish for publishing? And for the second question is, commonly the main problem of publication is about the homogeneity of author affiliation. Would you like to share with us about the strategy, how to make it to be diversity? Because commonly we have, less friends from another country, something like that. And the third, like you said, that make it simple and translate the findings into meaningful information is very great problem for commonly author. So can you share with us how to make it effective and efficiency? Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Right.
Dr.
Okay. So Professor Jan,
Yeah.
would you like me to elaborate the question
Yeah,
again one by one?
Yeah, Dr. Ria, please put it. She asked 3 questions. I could get it. And she is from the food technology background. She asked 3 questions. I could also get 1 question regarding some collaboration. But it will be nice if you just make it 3 sentences.
All right. Okay. So number 1 is the opportunity of the topic from the post-harvest or food technology to publish in SJA. So how is the opportunity to publish?
Yeah, it's post-harvest food technology. It's a valid area of the agriculture, and any discipline related to agriculture is publishable in SJA.
Mhm. Right. Okay. So it's quite high opportunity, right?
Yeah, yes, quite high opportunity. There are quite a number of manuscripts published, and we encourage papers from food technology, from post harvest to be published in SJA. So I recommend and I encourage and I request that if you have such papers, please do submit to SJA.
Right. Okay. And her second question is how to avoid the homogeneity of the elders, because we are encouraged to have like the different elders from different institutions. So how to expand our network, because commonly we have the same colleges from the same university.
Uh, I think there should be because most of the time we work in group or in collaboration, so we end up with many publications with the same authors. So two things can be done. Number one, of course, doing different research, a bit different research, and finding different collaborators that will help this issue.
Right. Okay. So maybe we can like expand our knowledge by reading more journals. So, Miss Devi, could you please elaborate your last question, the third question?
Yeah.
Okay, so exactly about the strategy and how to make it simple and translate the finding into meaningful information, because commonly we are confused whenever we start to writing, something like that. Maybe the step for discuss to explore about our findings, something like that.
Right. Okay. So, Professor Jan, how to draft our findings and put all of the data that we get into a compelling research.
What research? Comprehensive?
Yeah. How to draft our findings and all of the data that we already obtained to make it into a good, compelling findings in our manuscript. How
Okay.
to make it.
Okay, that's a very good question. The question is that uh, while writing a manuscript, the good practice is that what I practice actually myself, my own experience is that whenever I do a research, so the first thing is that before writing a manuscript, better make figures of your manuscript. You should have good figures of your manuscript. Once you make figures, the figure will tell you the story, that what is your story, what are your findings. So based on those figures and the story, you can write your manuscript. I repeat again, my own experience is that whenever I write a good manuscript, for the good manuscript, it is important that you should first draft your, you should decide your figures, number one. Bring your findings in the form of figures like graphs or tables or pictures. That is the first step. After the first picture, well, once you decide the figures, the second step will be you write the easy part. The easy part is usually writing method and material, and then results and discussion. And the last part is introduction. Uh, and then, of course, you write the abstract. Did I answer your question? Based on my experience, I repeat again, if you want to write a paper and you want to write a good paper and you want to make it very easy for yourself, first decide your figures. You decide your figures, you make good figures and put all your energy on your figures. When you decide your figures, your graphs, your tables, your pictures, figures, etc. So based on your figures, you write two things first. After figures, you write your method and material. And the second part should be results. And then you come to the discussion. Once you have done the discussion, you go back to write the introduction, and then you write the abstract. Did you get my point?
Okay, so we have to flip it, something like that, because sometimes because we confuse, we start with writing abstract introduction, and yeah, the result finally we write it at the last part.
Yeah,
Maybe.
writing manuscript is very easy, but
Yeah.
the thing is that you decide your story first. If you decide your story, like for example, you got figure one, figure two, figure three, you got three figures. Now, based on these, and you got a table, for example, the one table, three figures. Based on this data, you know that what is your story. So write your method and material. This should be the second. Then you write your result. That is the third. Then based on your result, you compile your discussion. Once you do your discussion, you go back to your introduction, and finally you put all the literature review or the literature cited is already there in the library with you. So this is my way. I usually, whenever my students are there and I ask them to write a paper, I ask them not to write introduction, not to write abstract. Please make your figures. Bring beautiful figures to me. You bring beautiful figures to me, you can make good papers on your figures. That's all.
Okay, exactly. I have the last question. This is my problem whenever I try to submit my paper in another journal. So sometimes in the form of registration, we have to choose the correct editor for recommendation in the journal. So would you like to tell us about this part? What we have to do to choose the correct editor, something like that, especially about the affiliation.
Ria, Devi is asking regarding the affiliations and
Registration.
the foreign authors.
Yeah, exactly about the registration step. Whenever in the registration step to submit the journal, so the editor asks us to choose a recommendation reviewer, something like that. So would you like to tell me about the strategy to choose the correct reviewer, something
Okay,
like that?
I got your question. I got your question, Devi. Regarding the foreign reviewers, of course, it is all your experience, and usually, in our case, for example, while publishing good papers, so you always have choices, likes and dislikes. You have to avoid certain reviews. From the reviewer comments, you can judge that whether that reviewer is positive or not positive, he's supportive or he's not supportive. So based on your experience, based on your supervisor experience, he can tell you and he can help you with selecting different reviewers. So the good option is that, of course, if you have some persons, like for example, usually we recommend those persons, foreign reviewers, with which we have had some sort of affiliation, or whom we can write, or whom we have some acquaintance. So that will be good actually. But of course, there should be no compromise on their there should, on their credibility. They should be positive. They should not be doing injustice to their I mean, with their morality should be credible.
Okay. Thank you very much for your response and your information about how to be better of writing in the article. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Devi.
Right. Okay. So I think we already come to the end of this question and answer session. I'm so sorry for some of the participants that some of the questions are not accommodated because we are running out of time. And sometimes I've been losing track. Apologies, Professor Jan, because I also check the chat if there is new questions come up.
Yes.
So yeah, I think this is the end of our session today. But before that, let me give time to the committee. Could you please display the certificate of appreciation for Professor Jan, who's already coming here and join us and share his beneficial knowledge to all of us?
Dr. Ria, thank you very much, and for giving me this opportunity. And I really enjoyed the question answer sessions, and I hope there will be many other opportunities. I would like to join and participate in such events with you people. Accept my
Right. Okay. So,
regards.
right. Let me invite all of the participants to give the big applause to Professor Asad Jan to join us today. That was very incredible. So, Professor Jan, thanks a lot for coming with us today. And we are really looking forward that our collaborations will go along the way. Thank you very much for your encouragement. We will make sure that all of the students in the University of Muhammadiyah Malang will send their manuscript to the SAJ. And we really hope for your kind assistance and also review and also positive feedbacks from your team.
Yeah,
But for
Dr. Ria, I want to mention that because we already have one special issue in progress with the Indonesia, Dr. Rai's the main focal person in that. I repeat that Sarhad Journal of Agriculture is free of charge for particularly for the foreigners. So Indonesia, people, brothers and sisters from Indonesia can submit many papers. And as I told Dr. Roy, I will specially facilitate publications of manuscript from Indonesia in Sarhad Journal of Agriculture. You are all welcome.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Jan, once again, for the guarantee and also for the warm welcome all the way from Pakistan. Professor Jan, the committee would like to ask for a little time from you, if you're okay with that. They're going to invite you to a break room to have some words with the committee. So if that's okay with you?
Yeah, no problem.
Right. Okay. So Professor Jan already said okay. So the committee can directly invite him into the break room. So thank you very much for all the participants. We will have a break time. We will have another break time for about 60 minutes. So you can have your duhur praying and also your lunch break and everything. We have to go back at 1 p.m. By 2 here, the presentation from Professor Dr. Manar Atum from Jordan. Okay, thank you very much and see you later.